Welcome to the Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore. It is Monday, March the 1st, 2021. On this edition of the Politicrat, how do you define success? What is success for you? That and additional things for you to think about and consider. Coming up next. Welcome back. So here we are, brand new month. March the 1st, 2021. My goodness me. And what have you done? What have you done so far this year? I ask myself that every day. What have I done so far? And I think that if you keep asking yourself that question, you then challenge yourself, hopefully, to make sure that you have had a productive day, whether you are employed or not, whether you are busy with family or not, whether you are going through life's challenges and meeting them head on or not meeting them head on. When you look back at the end of every day, do you like what you have done, what you see, what you have accomplished, what you haven't accomplished? Do you get to look back at the end of your day to the 12 to 14 to 16 to 24 hours that preceded it as your head hits the pillow? What is the rudimentary, what is the function for you? What is the, do you think about that? Do you even think about that? What your day was like in terms of accomplishments? I think those are questions to ask yourself, because sometimes I think that we look and find ourselves just swimming every day. I think that we find ourselves swimming every day. And what I mean by that is that we don't necessarily, some of us, don't necessarily write down what we're going to try to accomplish in any given day. And I'm not talking about putting it on your phone. No. I mean a piece of paper, a legal pad or some kind of sheet of paper, and actually get a pen, a ballpoint pen or a stylus pen, and actually an ink pen, and actually write down what it is you want to accomplish today. So it's Monday, March 1st, 2021. And why not take out a piece of paper if you have it and write down what it is you want to accomplish on this day? And then review that at the end of the day. What did you accomplish? Can you put a check mark next to A, B, C, D, E, or F, or G, or H, or Z? And if you didn't get something done, are you going to try to continue on with that endeavor? Are you going to continue on with that endeavor, or how is that looking? I think that we leave the threads untangled, or we don't tie those loose ends up. And I think that when we don't tie up loose ends, that's when the clutter begins. And that's when the clutter begins to be clouding your mind. And then the worry starts. And then the multiple things start to cloud and clutter. And next minute, you've got 17 different things that are unresolved. with no real plan to perhaps resolve them. Now, I think in any given person's life, you do have at least 6 things in your life, whether major or not, that do need some kind of resolution. Maybe less than that, maybe more items than 6. But the whole idea of this episode is to orient you to think about, what is success for you? Is success for you finishing out those few things in a day, or dealing with some kind of major issue that you can actually start to address that may have been years long in the making, or it may have been going on for years? Yeah, as I'm kind of repeating myself there, but maybe when I say years long in the making, these things have bubbled up and bubbled up and bubbled up, and then kapow, something happens. And if you begin to tackle the something that happens, is that the success for you, that you've actually begun to tackle it? Or is the success for you completing that task of dealing with, completing it all the way through? So now it's no longer something that is on your mind. You've resolved it one way or another. Is success for you the happy outcome? Is that what success is? That, yay, I finished this and it worked out in my favor, and therefore that is success. Or is success for you, you've completed the task that you've been wanting to complete forever, but though you completed it, you're not happy with the results. And perhaps you look at it as a failure somehow. And so therefore, though you've completed what you've wanted to complete, because of the outcome of it, you view it as a failure and not as a success. So again, how do you look at success? I will look at success in many different ways. I think success, in various degrees, is the completion of a task that you do. That's what I think success is. The completion of a task. There's other kinds of success, of course. And there's many kinds. That for me is one of them. It's not the only one that I view as success, but that is one of them, is completion of a task. This is on your item agenda, and you've said, this is the thing that I'm going to do today, and I've completed it. Regardless of what the outcome of the completion is, it's done. It's done. I always think that that's the interesting thing, is how people view success, because my view of success may differ from yours. Your view of success may differ from mine. And perhaps somebody will ask, well, am I happy with the result? Which is what I echoed earlier, what I said earlier. Am I happy? Success to someone else might be, well, I'm happy and I'm satisfied with what I've done here. Heck, I may not even have completed it or finished it the way I wanted to, but something else came up and I am actually happy with, or satisfied, I should say, with what's happened here. Let's say that you were suing somebody in court. Somebody really did you some wrong somewhere, and you said, and if you had the money and the time and the wherewithal, given everything that we're going through, to do this, you decided, I'm going to pursue a legal action against somebody. Now, your intent may have been to settle the case. Your intent might be to win the case outright and get damages, money damages, punitive damages, etc., 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 attorney's fees, whatever that might be. But it turns out that if you are in the mindset of, I want to win this case by getting an X amount of money and having this person pay all these damages, punitive damages, compensatory damages, infliction of emotional distress, whatever the damages might be. But instead you end up settling. You may view that as a failure. Even though you've settled for a fee, money-wise, that is not what you wanted. Some others might view that as success. Well, I did not ultimately get this amount from this individual, but I got something from them for what they did to me, what they did to, family, children, your family, which includes your children. What is the benchmark for that? So that's what I wanted to entertain on this episode, because I do think it's good to step back. And if you are a regular to this podcast, dear listener, then you will have noted that over the last few weeks, I've been doing this a little bit more with you. I've been asking you to think about how you look at your day, how you look at the year, what you've accomplished so far, and what kinds of things would you like to do in 2021? And what things you can do to start your day better. I've done episodes on that earlier in this calendar year. And I've also asked people to come up with some routines, and I've suggested some routines that I think that can help in terms of reducing stress at the very beginning of your day so that you can start your day with a better mental state of mind. A mindset that at least, even if you've got a lot of strife or a lot of stress or a lot of things going on in your life, a lot of uncertainty, you can at least begin the day with a mindset to tackle those things with a sharper, energized, more elevated state of mind. And people meditate every day, and people do the kind of exercises mentally that will guide them best. So the suggestions that I have proffered in previous episodes of this podcast may not be things that work for everybody, because everybody has different routines. They're comfortable with them. But for those of you who don't have a routine, I would like you to try those things that I've talked about in previous episodes, including the kinds of breathing exercises, the exercises I talked about in terms of counting backwards, and then counting forwards, and that kind of mental approach to counting backwards first from 10 to 1, because there's this anticipation that you get from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. And in your mind mentally, even though you're not at the Kennedy Space Center or Cape Canaveral or wherever, getting ready to lift off in a rocket, like NASA, you're not there. In your mind mentally, when you go backwards, there is an anticipation. What's going to happen when I get to the number 1? When I count from 10 and I go backwards, when I get to 1, there's this anticipation, even if you're not doing anything, even if you're just lying in bed and you've just woken up. Unless you're planning to wake up and have sex or something like that. But even counting from 10 to 1 does not really relate to it. That's a whole different other equation. But what I am really talking about is when you're counting backwards, just counting backwards from 10 to 1, even when you're not doing anything, but just counting, there is an anticipation. I think there is anyway, when you get from 10 down to 1. And then I ask people to, and I've said it on this podcast, to count from 1 to 10, so that you're now mentally climbing a ladder or mentally climbing a staircase as you get 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're actually walking up those steps mentally in your mind as you get from 1 to 10. It's a really good exercise. I think it works. Now, it may not work for you. It may be a complete, utter waste of time. What bloody shambles is this? Is this lard? What's this lard doing on a podcast telling me to count backwards and forwards? I'm not in grade school. I'm not in nursery school. I'm not in kindergarten. I don't know how you think about these things, but I do think that these are important things to do. Something, if it's not my suggestions, I'm sure there's something that you do to start your day off right for you. That could be anything. Hopefully not murdering anybody or anything violent, of course, but it could be anything other than the violence. Anything that gets you starting your day in a frame of mind that, at least to begin with, is healthy for you in the space that you operate in. In the space that you operate in, if you can begin your day in a way that is healthy before you even really start doing anything in that day, then your road to success, whatever that is for you, is going to at least begin the way you want to begin it. Because your mental state, your frame of mind, just your approach to the day is going to be different. Even if you've got mental challenges, even if you've got all kinds of things that you have to swim through in your day, I guarantee you that if you start your day doing something for you, whatever that is, whether it's the things I've suggested, whether it's your own routine, whatever that might be for you. And people have they have a vast array of things that they want to do, that they do to begin their day. Some of those things are, very deeply personal. But whatever that is for you, make sure you do it. And I'm telling you, if you start on your footing and not on someone else's, if you start on your own footing and not someone else's, someone dictating to you, someone in the news media dictating to you what your day should be like, someone on a podcast dictating to you. No, I'm not dictating to you. I'm only suggesting these things because I think that if you start the way you want to start your day, right when you've woken up, right when you open your eyes, and from that moment, as you toss in your bed and you turn and you look and the sun is shining or it's raining, and you might love the rain. I actually like rain. It's a comforting thing. There's something romantic about it. There's something sensual about the rain, especially when it hits the glass and it hits your window. And you're lying there and you're thinking, okay, how is this day going to start? In fact, you ask yourself, how am I going to start the day? If you can begin your day with that question, even as you're lying in bed, the sleep still in your eyes, and you start with these exercises I've suggested or your own routine, you already have control of what you will do on that given day, on this given day, or tomorrow, or the next day. The whole idea is for you to start the day in control, meaning you have the mindset that dictates what happens. Your frame of mind controls. Now, you can't control what happens, what other people do, but you can control what you do and how you respond. Success starts when you wake up. Success begins when you wake up and chart the course for you. When you are there in bed and you're still sleepy and you turn to your partner, your spouse, or you're there by yourself and you're lying there, and you turn to them or you don't turn to them. You're there, lying there, and you're thinking about, okay, I've got to do this, this, and this. But before you even go there, your mind might race in a million directions. But before you even do all of that, I want you to count backwards and forwards. And then I want you to really say to yourself, here's what I'm going to do to start this day. And I want you to say to yourself, the goal of this day for me is, and then you fill in whatever that goal is. For many people, it might be the goal of the day is getting through the day. That might be viewed as the success. Can I get through this day? And it's particularly if you are someone who, maybe if you are going through something with a mental challenge, with depression, with some kind of situation that is very, very serious, you may not even be able to articulate that is what you want to do, because you are in such deep pain and you're in such a serious situation that you don't think about articulating it, because you are in a state that's really serious. It's a very serious thing, clinical depression. I mean, I've never had it. I know people who have. I've mentioned this before. I know people who have been diagnosed as clinically depressed. It's very, very challenging. And you can have any guru sit there and tell you, well, do this, do that. But until you've been through what that is as clinical depression, I've seen it. I've seen it. I know people, believe me, I've known people, and I know people who are going through this now. And it's not easy. It's to say that it's not easy is kind of almost, it's an understatement. So I do recognize that this may not, what I am saying here may not fit all, may not be suitable for every human being. But maybe your goal of success for you is just getting through the day and getting through it unscathed, relatively speaking. Maybe that's your goal. But I want you to have an approach to the day that says, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to get this one thing done today. And I want you to start with that mindset. And say to yourself, I'm not going to let anything distract that, even if it's just something very small that I want to get done, no matter what. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do the other. And yes, I know that there's all these other things that need to be done, but I'm going to write something down. I'm going to write the one thing I want to get done today. I'm going to get this done. And actually write down the thing that you want to get done. And then underneath it, literally on a piece of paper, write down, I am going to get this done. And write it out in large capital letters, uppercase. I am going to get this done today. Exclamation point. I'm not kidding. Write down the thing that you want to get done today. Whichever day you're going to do it on. And underneath that, on that piece of paper, write down in large capital letters, I am going to get this done today. Exclamation mark. I want you to do that. Seriously. And I want you to keep looking at that piece of paper throughout your day. If you're going out into the world, please wear a mask. In fact, wear 2 masks. And I want you to carry that piece of paper with you. And I want you to start whatever that goal is. And every time you get closer and closer to that goal, or even if you haven't got to that goal completion yet, I want you to keep looking at that piece of paper every now and again. And I don't want you to stop doing what it is you're trying to do, that one thing you want to get done today. Okay? I don't want you to stop. I want you to keep looking at that piece of paper. And don't stop no matter what it is, even when that goal seems a little tenuous, I want you to look at that piece of paper as reinforcement. Because I don't want you to let this stuff sit in your mind, because that's what we all do, many of us. We allow this stuff to sit in our minds, and oh my goodness, it really does create a lot more angst, anxiety, worry, fear, confusion, upset, some depression perhaps, not necessarily clinical depression, but some kind of aspect of depression. And when you've got all these things clouded around and swimming in your mind, it's really it's one of the worst states of mind to be in, because you are all over the place. And then you know what happens? In many of those instances, you're liable and likely to forget something or make some huge mistake that is going to just really set off a chain of events that you don't want. And I'm sure that some of you have experienced this. So please, that piece of paper and that pen are going to be very important. Write down that one goal. And write down underneath it, I am going to get this done today! ! And write that down in large letters, uppercase, capital letters. Take that piece of paper with you if you're going out. Do it today. Do it now. Welcome back. So success. I think I wanted to start with it like that, because I think that success is something that is very subjective. I think that's very obvious. Because you've got that, and then you've got what society tells you success is. What the society is. And then what it tells you that success is. And that's a whole nother ballgame completely. Although, I would ask you, when you define what success is that modeled upon what society tells you success is? And I would ask this of anybody, whether you're a man, a woman, if you are someone who's non-binary, if you're someone who's trans, if you're someone who's whomever you are in the world. If you're black, if you're Asian, Latina, Latinx, Native, white, whomever, what is success for you? I mean, do you find that is the society, is it that you're doing is that what it is? For example, let's say that the society that you're in, the society that we're all in, is telling you that to be successful, you've got to have a spouse, you've got to have 2 or 3 children, you've got to have 1 or 2 cars, and you've got to have a white picket fence and a big old house. And let's say that that's what success is, according to a society's dictates. And that's the model you see on TV, you might see it in a film, you might see it in a commercial, an ad in TV, an ad on radio. Well, you don't see it on radio, but you know what I mean. Or in a magazine, or on the internet. And that's what success is. Let's say that that's what it is. Let's say that society defines, and that's what it does actually. Society does tell you what success is. And it asks you to measure up to it. Advertising is very powerful in that regard. Very powerful indeed. And let's say that that's what the model is for success in the society. It tells you you've got to have all of these things. Do you measure yourself up against that? If you have those things right now, big old house, white picket fence. Well, the house doesn't have to be big old. It could be just a regular house. However big or small that house is. And you have the white picket fence. Well, it doesn't have to be a white picket fence exactly, but you know. and you have a spouse, and you have 3 kids, and you have a car or 2, does that mean that, do you think you're successful? Does that make you successful? Or is that just that you're imitating what the society says you should do, or what the society advertises to you as success? Or is that just that you just are successful because this is what you've planned, this is what you've wanted, this is a goal of yours, is to have children, is to marry, is to do this, that, the other, and yes, have a big house or have a house and da-da-da-da-da. And is that goal independent of what the society is advertising to you? For you, think about that. I would imagine that it would be independent of the society, but the society is very powerful, isn't it? I think, dear listener, we can come to a ready agreement that the society that we're swimming in, that we're all swimming in, is very powerful. The messaging that we get sent on a daily basis through advertising, through television, through film, through magazines especially, are very powerful. The ads, I think particularly for women, the advertising is very powerful. And, especially whether you're reading Vogue or Glamour or Ebony or I think Ebony's wrapped up their production, Jet, or whichever, Essence rather is a better example. Essence, whatever it is you're reading from a woman's perspective, that's particularly powerful, because the society that is run by men, which this one is, the one you're in it's a patriarchy, and it's a white male patriarchy, more specifically. But every kind of man benefits under that patriarchy, even if that man ends up being, which is, discriminated against. And of course, there are many men, black, native, who are discriminated against, obviously. Yet when we're talking about a patriarchy, that is also about male advantages and benefiting from those at the expense of female, or at the expense of women, at the expense of the female gender. But that's also because of the oppression of the female gender by men, the oppression of women by men. But I mentioned this part in 2 ways. One, because I want to finish the thought about this advertising to women that's really powerful. And it gives you and then the second piece I'm going to get to. But the first piece of this is the advertising is very powerful. And because of this very sexist society and the patriarchy, this white male patriarchy that we have, this hetero patriarchy that we have, as Angela Davis put it so very clearly in a really important discussion yesterday, which I will talk about. It needs a separate episode to really talk about that. And I will sometime in the next few days, I think. But when you're in a world like that, and you're a woman, and you're looking at Vogue, or you're looking at Essence, or you're looking at whichever magazine, or you're looking at something on television, you are being sent messages every day about how you should look, how you should sound, how you should dress and act. More so than even men, although men are sent those messages too, but it's women who are really sent those messages. And especially when a woman is advertising something, and you're supposed to look like this, you're supposed to lighten your skin, you're supposed to do this. That's been going on for centuries. Even the hair care products, the skin cream products, all those things. Sometimes, this stuff's blatant. And it really is. And the whole point I'm trying to get to is success. Is that what success is? When you look at those ads, is success doing what the advertisement is telling you to do? So is it a case of, pardon my vernacular, it's not even vernacular, pardon my phrasing here. Is the success monkey see, monkey do? Is it that if that ad over there says to you that you've got to lighten your skin, you've got to straighten your hair, You've got to, and you end up doing all those things. Is that success for you? Particularly if you are a woman listening to this, is that success? Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Or is that just a trap that you say, hell no, I don't have to lighten my skin to, to follow what? Some standard of beauty that's artificially rendered by the society, by the men who control those companies and own them? And then that's a whole nother conversation. But success, the topic is success. How do you measure that? Whether you're a male, female, you're non-binary, you're non-gender conforming, you're trans, you're straight, gay, bisexual. What is success to you in that regard? And if the society was not advertising these things to you, would you have an independent frame of reference for yourself for what success is for you? Would you be clearer about what success is for you? Because I tend to think that society clouds the judgment, clouds yourself, and kind of influences you as to what success is through advertising, through what maybe a certain superstar celebrity wears, what that celebrity says, how they market. It's all advertising and marketing. So how do you counter that? If you don't believe in that stuff and you say, damn it, that's garbage. Oh, he or she or they are looking and modeling this stuff, and it's like, what is that? Really? And if you have that posture and that response and you say, to heck with that, do you have your own countering to that kind of messaging? What is success to you in that regard? When a society is telling you what success is, how do you respond to that? Do you emulate that and say, yay, I'm successful because I've copied what the society has told me to do? I've replicated it. I'm one of the good guys. Or do you say, this is garbage. This ain't success. This is BS. I've got my own program over here, and I'm going to do that. And that's what makes me happy. That's what fulfills me. That's what makes me successful. I'm going to do what fulfills me. To heck with the, oh, you should do this. You should drive this car. You should. I don't know, dear listener. I just wanted to orient your mind on this particular episode to get you to think about those things in case you don't think about them. I bet you do think about them to some degree. Because I do sometimes think, well, I often believe, I just believe this period, that trying to measure up, or whatever you would call it, to the society's dictates of what success is can be extremely exhausting and depressing in varying degrees of depression, and can cause people to really end their own lives because, damn it, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm still not where I want to be, and damn it, I've got no way out. And sadly, some people feel that they've got no way out. And there may be very good reasons for that, believe me. I think there's very good reasons why some people might feel that way. And of course, there are appropriate hotlines and places. And I'm going to link to one of them actually in this podcast episode. Where if you're feeling a certain way, and it's a very difficult time, where people are going through, we're all going through this time in varying different ways, but it's difficult for some. There's a lot going on with a lot of people you don't even know. I don't even know. But I got to tell you that people can get help if they need it. And I'm going to put a hotline number in, a website in for those of you listening, because you might know someone who needs help. You may be the person yourself that needs it. right? So I'm going to do that. And I do that in conjunction with all of this because I think that sometimes when you do look at these things, it's like a trap sometimes. Because there's something oppressive, I think, about some society imposing upon you what success is. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't go to school and be educated. Of course you should. Education system's a shambles in the United States, and it's a shambles in some other countries. But there are other countries out there that actually have tremendously good education systems. In Denmark, they do. In some Scandinavian countries, their rates of education are very good. I think in Germany, it had been. I don't know if that still is the case. Someone who is attuned to what's going on in Germany would know better than I would hope. On the African continent, it's very varied about education. The situation for gender is very, very difficult. Women in many African countries are not allowed to be educated, or at least there are a lot of stumbling blocks to that. UNICEF has a program, Lawrence O'Donnell, Kids in Need in Need of Desks, the Kind Fund. I've contributed to that fund, so I'm kind of plugging it a little bit there, but full disclosure. And there's other organizations that do things to help girls on the African continent get educations, get desks, get kids, boys or girls, to, get education, to educate. The money that you can donate to that is extraordinary. I mean, I look at that as a success. If I donate some money to an organization that does good things, that might be the only success of the whole day. I mean, I'm just saying that hypothetically. That might be the only success of the day. And these other 5 things over here, I didn't get to complete, I didn't get to do, I didn't do that. But I donated some money to somebody. I could afford to, and I know that money, whether it goes to administrative costs or not, makes a difference somewhere. And I hope it does. But I think it does. And I believe it does. Now, the other piece of why I mentioned the advertising and all those kinds of things is because, we're now on March 1st, and so it is Women's History Month. I again will say what I say with Black History Month. It's Black History Year, and it's Women's History Year. Every single day of the year is Women's History Year. And it's not Women's History Month, but I get it. That's what we call it here in the United States, and maybe beyond. None of this is confined to one month. It's just silly to do that. But I get it. But this is a month. Does the fact that it's Women's History Month, so if we just postulate it for a moment, because it's a whole year, but because it's March 1st and we've begun Women's History Month, if you're a woman listening to me right now, does that spur you on in any additional way, or does it not make much of a difference to you? Does it make a difference to you that it is the first day of Women's History Month, as it's called? Because, as I say, Women's History Year, right? So I'm just curious if there is, and that's really what I wanted to get to as well, is does it make a difference to you? Does it inspire you to want to achieve a greater level of success, or is it just another day for you on the calendar? But I ask this seriously. I'm not asking this to be patronizing or paternalistic or anything like that. And I dearly hope, dear listener, that I am not coming across that way. I really do try to make an effort for myself, purely selfishly and sincerely, not to come across that way, because I don't think that I'm that kind of person. However, I am not the sole arbiter of that. If you're listening to me, you are. Right? Once these words are spoken, it is received by you. These words are. And you're the one that has that unique. Again, I go, I'm not patronizing here either. You make that decision, right? You make the decision on whether what you hear from me is patronizing or paternalistic or mansplaining. I really would love feedback on that. I guess if I, don't get any at politicratpod@gmail.com, that means I guess I'm probably not so paternalistic after all. That would be really good. No, I'm just curious because I don't think I am, but then everybody says that, right? It's like the alcoholic who says, I'm not an alcoholic. It's horrible analogy. I'm sorry. But that's true, isn't it? It's usually the person that says that who is, right? And not always, but so it's something to think about. I'll be right back. I've just got a couple other things I would like to fill you in on. Welcome back. Just a few things to fill you in on as we are on March 1st. So number one, please do this. Please head down to head up or head across to online, the Politicrat Daily Podcast Online Store. Look, you know very well that I talk a lot. This is a simple fact. I talk a lot. So why not talk about the Politicrat Daily Podcast Online Store for just a moment? This is a store that builds daily and products that I design. I design these things on a near daily basis, and get products on a daily basis coming in from the designs that I do, and it's a really good thing. And I want you to do what you do that in these times you can do, and I want you to do it. One of the things I want you to do, though, while you're doing that, is take a look at the Politicrat Daily Podcast Online Store at the-politicrat.myshopify.com. T-shirts, hats, hoodies will be coming very soon indeed. And a number of different items, pens, drinkware. It's all happening. All kinds of designs. There's a new one called that I've done that's come in now. It's called Dude, Where's My Stimulus Check? That is the t-shirt that is now available for you to purchase at thepoliticrat.com or at the better address is the-politicrat.myshopify.com. Truly the way to go. You will get a lot of attention. Maybe not that you're looking to get a lot of attention. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. But I guarantee that when you wear this particular t-shirt, Dude, Where's My Stimulus Check? You will have people reacting to that shirt. Hopefully they've got a mask on when they're doing it. But the weather's going to get warmer. And I know in some parts of the United States and some parts of countries around the world, it's not warm at all. But I can tell you, the products, they ship internationally. Any of the products that you find at the Politicrat Daily Podcast Online Store ship internationally. So please take a look at the-politicrat.myshopify.com today and buy right now. One or two other things to be aware of. One, the Senate Judiciary Committee will be, and has, by the time you listen to this, casted their vote on Merrick Garland to become the next Attorney General of the United States. Merrick Garland, who testified a week ago before the Senate Judiciary Committee, is expected to sail through, and I dare say that he has. So by the time you may be listening to this, you will have learned of Merrick Garland passing, because I'm very confident that he will. So he will have passed with flying colors through the Senate Judiciary Committee. It's a simple majority vote, so he's going to pass and be confirmed there. Of course, it has to go to the full Senate, and I would expect that the full United States Senate, all 100 senators, will vote on his confirmation at some point during this week. I would be shocked if it was next week for that. I think it's going to probably go to the full Senate by the end of the week, if at the very latest. I'd be shocked if it were next week. But Merrick Garland is clearly going to become the next Attorney General of these United States, and I think well-deservingly. He should have been on the Supreme Court of the United States, but, here's a way to get him to a really very high office. I mean, the Attorney General of the United States that's not stepping on ants. That's a really big deal. Not that you want to step on ants, but oh, dearie me. But there you have it. So that's going to happen. Also, and that did happen, for those of you listening later on, that happened. He was confirmed. And I can say that with a high degree of confidence. And also what's happening is the House is going to be looking at the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, which is a good bill, but it needs a lot more. And there needs to be some things, wrinkled, ironed out, if I can say that. It's not a perfect bill. Nothing is. But I would say that it's a start and it needs to be strengthened, and we can't delay anymore. The House is going to take this up this week in the United States House and the Congress. They're going to look at this. And by the way, they should. Also, just over a year now, the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act was passed by the House around February the 26th or so, 2020. So we're just past a year over that. And I believe the House is going to be looking at strengthening that, perhaps. I don't know. But the Senate has got to take up that bill, and we have to keep on the Senate. If we are going to sit here and talk about Black Lives Matter, and we're going to put signs like Black Lives Matter in our windows, in our businesses, in our storefronts, then we need to be putting pressure on the Senate and telling Chuck Schumer that you've got to take up the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act that was passed by the House over a year ago and make it law now, please. I mean, come on. This has got to happen. And we've also got to make sure that the John Lewis Voting Rights Act is going to be also passed as well. We need the House is working on this. And I think it was passed already. But we need to get this done in the Senate. So the Senate, 202-225-3121 or 202-224-3121 to put pressure, call the Congressional Switchboard, ask to speak to Senator Chuck Schumer, the majority leader, about this and remind him that this needs to be done. And then finally, again, I want to say, this is Women's History Month. Again, it's Women's History Year. And one of the things that I want to do is salute Lorraine Hansbury, playwright, author, A Raisin in the Sun, and an activist, someone who believed strongly in justice and freedom for women in general, but for all people, and for Black people first and foremost, in terms of the struggle. And she was a very active member of political movements, or as a concerned citizen. She was very active in that way. And she was part of a meeting. And this actually is recalled in the documentary I Am Not Your Negro, which is directed by Raoul Peck, which chronicles James Baldwin. And you've got to watch that. It's on Netflix, and you really should watch that. I'm actually giving away a DVD or Blu-ray of I am not your Negro. And I should say that now because I've done this on Twitter at the Popcorn REEL. And so yesterday, Sunday, the 28th of February, 2021, I asked people on Twitter, tweeted them, and said, name a film adaptation, name the book, or name the book that James Baldwin wrote that was adapted for film. And I'm going to allow this contest to run another day or two. So by the time we get to Wednesday, it's going to be lock, stock, and barrel, and that will be the last day to tweet answers to me. And how it works is you go on Twitter. In fact, I'm going to put a link to it in this podcast episode as well, to the tweet. And I would like you to tweet me the answer, and correct answers only, of course. And because from those correct answers, I will be randomly drawing one winner. And that draw will take place sometime this week. The winner will be announced this coming Friday. So please, if you know the answer, please send me a tweet at the Popcorn REEL. I will put a link in the liner notes to the tweet itself, so you don't have to hunt for it because it is not a pinned tweet. So just want to let you know that. And Lorraine Hansbury, by the way, it was someone she was very active. She was very concerned about what was going on with black people in the South and what Robert Kennedy was or wasn't doing about that. You know, Robert Kennedy was not doing what he was supposed to do, and black people had to push him. Lorraine Hansbury was one of them. So on this Women's History Year, day one of it, belatedly, 2 months after the beginning of the calendar year, Women's History Year, beginning today, a salute to Lorraine Hansbury, great author, playwright, Pulitzer Prize winner. Raisin in the Sun, A Raisin in the Sun. I mean, a phenomenal work that, of course, has been adapted to film. Daniel Petrie directed the Petrie. I don't know if that's the pronunciation is correct. Petrie directed that phenomenal film that stars Ruby Dee and Sidney Poitier and Claudia McNeil and a whole load of other people. Excellent cast members. So there you have it. Those are the things I really wanted to get to and get at. And those are the items for this particular episode. Thank you very much for listening to this edition of the Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore.